Okay, have a good day. Uh, this is my report in chapter 3. Let's talk about chapter 3, criminal law. What is criminal law? Okay. We all know it's impossible to study crimes without studying criminal law because crimes are defined by the criminal laws punishing them. This is the essence of Latin principle, nolium crimen nolia when sin legi state in English it principle in the criminal law means there is no crime when there is no law. Sabi dito kung walang krimen, walang batas. Kung walang batas, walang krimen. Ganun by punishing act. In the absence of law, an act cannot be considered illegal and therefore is not punishable. Kung wala tayong batas, kahit may ginawang krimen, ay hindi siya punishable kasi wala tayong batas. Kung may batas tayo, meron tayong krimen na nagagawa. So, that is importance. Okay, criminal law. What is criminal law? Criminal law is defined as the branch of public law, which defines crimes, treat their nature, and provides for their punishment. It's also sometimes referred to as a penal law. This is the penal law is important. Penal law, criminal law about is illegal or not, that is criminal law. So, kung may illegal or not, meron pa rin tayong criminal law o batas. Next, let's proceed early codes. So, early codes, before RPC or Special Penal Code, meron tayong early codes. Ito yung mga batas noong BC, nung wala pa tayo. So, early codes. Number 1, Code of Hammurabi. What is Code of Hammurabi? Hammurabi is the king of Babylon. Dati siyang Egypt, as known as Egypt during the 18th century BC. He is recognized the first codifier of law. It is believed that it was during his reign that the code was created. Thus, it was named after him. This code, which was carved in the stone, provided to the first comprehensive view of the law during the time. So, yung mga batas ni Code of Hammurabi ay nakasulat sa bato or nakaukit. Doon nakaukit yung mga batas niya. Okay. The provision of the code were premised as the law of Tylon or the principle of an eye to eye, tooth for a tooth. Sa madaling salita in Tagalog ay eye to eye yung mga punishable niya, yung mga punishment na binibigay niya sa kada nagkakasala o nakakagawa ng krimen. Ayun, under the principle of law of Tylon, the punishment should be the same as the harm inflicted on the victim. So kung ano yung nangyari sa nakagawa ng krimen, ayun din yung magiging punishment niya. So, halimbawa, kung napilayan mo ang biktima or nabalian mo siya, gagawin niya sa'yo ay babalian ka rin niya. Kung halimbawa naman ay yun nga, pag gumagawa ka ng bahay, if yung gumagawa ng bahay tapos gumuho yung bahay na ginagawa niya, tapos yun ang naging sanhi ng pagkamatay ng mga nakatira sa bahay, ang gagawin sa'yo ay papatayin ka rin niya kasi yun nga, kung ano yung nagiging krimen na nagagawa mo, kung paano nangyayari yung krimen, kung paano siya namatay sa kamay mo, ganun din yung punishment na ipapataw sa'yo. Ganun yung Code of Hammurabi. Okay, Si Hammurabi ang gumawa ng Code of Hammurabi, kaya nga sa kanya ito pinangalan, Code of Hammurabi. Okay, ang parusa niya ay katumbas or kapareha ng ginawa ng kriminal sa kanyang biktima. Ayun. Okay, may mga halimbawa pa rin tayo dito na halimbawa kung halimbawa sa mga witnesses, yon. Yung witness, kapag mali yung ebidensyang binigay mo or ipinahayag mo, kapag ka-involved dito yung death penalty at napatunayan na mali yung ipinataw mo or ipinahayag mo na ebidensya, yun ang gagawin sa'yo ay papatayin ka pa rin. Ganun yung Codes of Hammurabi. Next, the Hittites. Yun, the Hittites, katulad lang din siya ng Code of Hammurabi. Pareho sila ng pagpapataw ng kaparusahan sa krimen o sa kriminal. Yun. Next, Code of Drakon. The Hittites. The Hittites exist about 2 centuries after the reign of Hammurabi, and they eventually conquered Babylon. The law of Hittites may also be characterized as brutal, just like the Code of Hammurabi, because they use death as punishment for many offense. So, kung maraming offense na nagagawa ang isang kriminal ay kung ano rin yung paano siya gumagawa ng krimen, paano siya pumapatay, ganun din gagawin sa kanya. So, parehas lang siya ng Code of Hammurabi. So, next, Code of Drakon. What is Code of Drakon? This was codified by Drakon, an Athenian lawgiver in Athens, Greece, in the 7th century BC. This was known as the ultimate in severity because of its severe penalties, even more simple offense. So ayun, yung Code of Drakon is kahit simpleng offense lang na nagawa niya ay bibigyan pa rin siya ng matinding kaparusahan, maliit o malaking offense. Yun. Next, Laws of Solon. Solon is also an Athenian, was appointed archon and was given legislative powers during his time. He repealed almost all the law of the Code of Drakon and created laws that provided just punishment. He was on the first to see that lawgiver had to make law that applied equally all netizens, and also that the law of punishment had maintained proportionality and crimes committed. So, Law of Solon is nung namatay si Drakon o nawala sa batas ni Drakon, pinalitan ni Solon ang lahat ng batas ni Drakon at gumawa siya ng kanyang sariling batas. Ang ginawa niyang batas ay fair sa lahat or pantay-pantay sa mamamayan. Kung ano yung maging kaso mo, dapat ito lang yung kaparusahan na dapat ipataw sa'yo. Yun yung ginawa ni Laws of Solon. At dahil dyan, si Solon ay naging impact sa history of law, making that now the term Solon is used to refer to any member of Senate of the House Representative. So, ayun yung naging impact ni Solon sa history niya. So, pinalitan niya lahat ng matitinding parusa, at ang parusa na binigay niya ay umuugnay lamang sa kasong ginawa ng kriminal. Rome's 12 Tables. Okay, ang 12 tables is a Roman law began with the 12 tables which were written in the middle of the 6th century BC by the Decemvirs. It was written in the tables of bronze and it because a foundation of all laws in Rome. Ito yung natatanging pundasyon o foundation sa batas ng mga Roma. Yun yung Rome's 12 tables. So, yun makikita naman natin sa limang yun na bukod sa Law of Solon, yung unang tatlo, yun yung naging pinakamatinding parusa na ipinapataw sa mga kriminal kapag nakagawa sila. Parang kung ano yung kaparusahan na ginawa mo o paano ka pumatay, parehas ng ipapataw sa yung parusa na papatayin ka rin. So ganun, kung may pinilay ka o may binulag ka, pipilayin ka rin at bubulagin ka. Ganon, same as nagawa mo sa biktima. So, yung limang yun, actually hindi naman na siya nag-exist kasi nga hindi na siya nag-exist or hindi na siya pinapatupad dahil sa makabagong panahon natin ngayon. So, marami na ring batas dumadami na batas na iba't ibang batas na umuugma sa ginagawa ng kriminal o ng tao. So, binago yun lahat dahil sa ating makabagong panahon o makabagong buhay. Yon, hindi na siya nag-exist katulad ng mga sinaunang batas. Okay, let's go to Reverse Penal Code. Reverse Penal Code o RPC. So, one of the source of the Philippines criminal law is Act number 3815 or otherwise known as the Revised Penal Code or RPC. It was approved on December 8, 1930. Na-approve siya noong December 8, 1930 and became effective on January 1, 1932. So, naging effective yung RPC, Revised Penal Code, noong January 1, 1932 and remains enforceable up to this day, except for those provisions that have already been repealed. The passage of other special penal law over the year. It was related from the original penal code by the committee created by virtue of administrative or 94 issue on October 18, 1927 by the Department of Justice. So, yon. Meron tayong tatlong characteristic of criminal law. Yon, nasa criminal. Let's talk about characteristic of criminal law. Okay, criminal law has the following characteristic. Meron tayong tatlo niyan. First, general or generality, territorial or territoriality, perspective or perspectively. Yun yung tatlong characteristic ng criminal law. One, so we're going to it's general to generality. It's a general application or generality. The provision of criminal law or penal law must be applied equally to all persons within the territory, regardless of a sex, race, nationality, and other person circumstance with the following exemption. So, yun. Ang batas, ang sabi dito, ina-apply ng pare-pareha sa mga tao. Ina-apply ng pantay-pantay ukol sa mga nagagawa nilang kasalanan na kahit na ano ka pa, kahit na anong lahi mo pa. So, ibig sabihin kapag nandito ka sa Pilipinas at nag-commit ka sa loob nito, yung pagpapataw sa'yo ng parusa is kapareha lang din ng or paano ba pantay na pagbibigay ng kaparusahan sa'yo or fair na pagpaparusa sa'yo. Okay, sa tatlo yan meron tayong Principle of Public International Law, treaties or treaty stipulation. Example, yung base agreement, pagkakasundo ng dalawang bansa sa Philippines and US on March 14, 1947 na nag-expired noong September 16, 1991. So, yung pangatlo, yung Law of Preferential Application. Example, diplomatic representative and their domestic servants. Ayun. Sunod is, it is territorial in characteristic or territoriality. It's a part of right of the state self-representative. Each independent country has the right to promulgate laws enforceable within a territorial jurisdiction, subject only the limitation imposed by treaties of preferential application and by operation on international of nation. Next. So, ito yung mga naka-under sa territory or territoriality. Ayun. Ito yun. The RPC is other special law of applicable only the areas within the Philippines territorial jurisdiction such as Philippine Archipelago yon, atmosphere, water, and maritime zone. So, yon. Once na nakapasok ka na sa tatlong bahaging yan or nakagawa ka ng kasalanan sa nakapaloob ka dyan or nasa loob ka na yan, ikaw ay under na ng Pilipinas sa crime. Sa punishment kung dyan may nagawa ka dyan. So, ang ibig sabihin ng Philippine Archipelago is all islands that comprise the Philippines. Yun. Tas atmosphere, water, all the bodies of water that connect the island such as bays, river, and stream. Maritime zone, the 12-mile limit beyond our shore measure as the low tide. Yun yung mga ibig sabihin ng tatlong yan. So, 3, and yung perspective or prospectivity. No person may be punished for his act when the time he committed the act. It is still not yet punishable by law. However, penal laws may be given retroactive effect when they are favorable to accused. Explanation to the exemption. This a person is habitual delinquent or habitual criminal, retroactive effect not applicable. So, yun. Felony or delito is an act or omission punishable by the law which is committed by means of dolo or deceit or culpa or fault and punishable under the revised penal code. So, international felonies, dolo or deceit, or and 2, and culpable felonies or culpa or fault. So, international felonies, an act or omission which is malicious or has the intent to do an injury bro another. So, yun. So, next, requisite, freedom of action or voluntariness. The offender must have freely or committed the act of omission. So, intelligence, when the offender has a ability to determine what is right and what is wrong, and the ability to appreciate the consequence of his act. So, intelligence, yun yung dinedetermine niya kung alin yung tama o mali, and na-appreciate niya yung mga consequence na ipapataw sa kanya. So, intent or criminal intent, when the person knowingly and purposely committed the crime to obtain the desired result. If felonies performed without malice and the injury caused by the offender is unintentional. So, requisite freedom of action, intelligence, and imprudence and negligence. Next, imprudence is defined. What is imprudence? Imprudence is defined as the deficiency in action or failure to take the necessary precaution to prevent the danger due to careless, which is usually involve lack of skill. Lack of skill. What is lack of skill? When the crime results because the person does not have the necessary skill to perform the action safely. Yon. Negligence. The negligence is defined as deficiency or perception or failure to see the danger, which is usually involve lack of foresight. Lack of foresight, when the crime resulted to the person inability to predict the possible outcome of action. So yun, sana maunawaan natin. Stage in the commission of felonies. Ito yung mga stage. Ito yung mga stage na commission of felonies. Attempted, not all acts done. Frustrated, all acts executed but not accomplished. Consummated, all acts done and accomplishment are. Okay, let's go to circumstance affecting criminal liability. Okay, first, justifying circumstance Article 11. Ito yung are those when act of person is said to be being accordance with law, so that such person is deemed not to have transgressed the law and is free from both criminal and civil liability. Next, exempted circumstance Article 12 are those grounds from exception from punishment because there is lacking in the agent of the crime any of the condition which make the act voluntary or negligent. 3. Mitigating circumstance Article 13 are those which of present in the commission of the crime do not enter the free or from criminal liability but serve only to reduce the penalty. So ayun yung circumstance affecting criminal liability. Meron pang 4, yung aggravating circumstance. Are those which if attendant in the commission of the crime serve in to increase the penalty without however exceeding by the law of the offense. O yun yung aggravating circumstance. So 5, alternative circumstance are those which must be taken into consideration as aggravating or mitigating according to the nature and effect of the crime and the other condition attending its commission. So, yun ang ibig sabihin ng alternative circumstance. So, yun lamang po. Maraming salamat and God bless. Sana po maunawaan nyo. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.
Sociological determinism. Sociological determinism. Sociological factors refers to things, places, and people with whom we come in contact, and which play a part in determining our action and conduct. These causes may bring about development of criminal behavior. Emile Durkheim, a French sociologist who published his dissertation called The Division of Labor in Society. He started that crime is a normal part of the society. It's just like the birth and death. Propose the concept of anomie, or the absence of social norms. It is characterized by disorder due to lack of common values shared by individuals, lack of respect for authority, and lack of appreciation for what is acceptable and not acceptable in society. Gabriel Tarde introduced the theory of imitation, which proposes the process by which people become criminals. According to this theory, individuals imitate the behavior of other individuals based on the degree of their association with other individuals, and it is inferior or weak who tend to imitate the superior and strong. Adolphe Quetelet and Andre Michel Guerre, founder of Cartographic School of Criminology, founder of Moral Statistics. Cartographic School of Criminology made use of statistical data such as population, age, gender, occupation, religion affiliation, and social economic status, and studies their influences on the relationship to criminality. This study also found connection between climate, weather, and geographical location to the tendencies to commit crimes of certain individuals. Modern sociological theories of crime causation. Environmental factors such as kind of rearing or family upbringing, quality of teaching in school, influences of peers and friends, condition of the neighborhood, and economic and other societal factors are believed to be contributory to crime and criminal behavior. Ibig sabihin daw, nakaka-apekto daw ang environment or surroundings sa isang tao ang pag-commit ng crime. Nor he born with abusive parents that affect the mentality of a person. Social and structure theories refer not only to physical features of the communities but also to the way society is organized. Includes such things as level of poverty, unemployment, and the amount of crowded housing, which are believed to affect behavior and attitudes of individuals, which in turn contribute to their commission of crimes. Also called social environment, include social discrimination theory, strain theory, and cultural deviance theory. Social disorganization theory, popularized by Clifford Shaw and Henry Mackay. According to this theory, crimes in urban area are more prevalent because residents have impersonal relationship with each other. Increase the number of relationships with each other. Increase the number and broken of families and single parenthood are also very common in disorganized communities. Another features of disorganized community is poverty, as evidenced by poor living conditions such as random houses, unsanitary and unsightly street, and high unemployment rates. Strain theory. Strain theory refers to the individual frustration, anger, and resentment. Hold that crime is a function of conflict between the goals people have and means they can use to legally obtain them. This also argues that the ability to obtain this goal is class dependent. Members of the lower class are unable to achieve these goals, which come easily to those belonging to the upper class. Consequently, they feel anger, frustration, and resentment referred to as strain. Cultural deviance theory gives emphasis on the concept of cultural and subculture. According to this theory, because people in the lower class feel isolated to extreme deprivation or poverty, they tend to create a subculture with its own set of rules and values. This is characterized by divine which result in criminal behavior among its members. This is combination of strain and disorganization theory. Example is NPA. Social process theory refers to a group of theories which point to the individual socialization process as the cause for the commission of crimes. These theories cite interaction with people and experience and exposure to different elements in the environment as primary factors to criminality. Under this theory is the social learning theory, which has turned as three sub-theories: differential association theory, differential reinforcement theory, and neutralization theory. Differential association theory, formulated by Edwin Sutherland. This theory states that the criminal behavior is learned through socialization. Criminal behavior is learned by interaction with other person in the process of communication. Differential reinforcement theory. In 1965, Ronald Akers, an assistant professor at the University of Washington, and Robert Burgess came together to introduce differential reinforcement theory. According to his story, individual behavior depends on how people around him react toward this behavior. An act that is rewarded is repeated, an act that is punished will be avoided. Neutralization theory, introduced by David Matza and Grayson Skies, sometimes referred to as drift theory. According to this theory, people know when they are doing something wrong. However, they rationalize and justify the reaction. This rationalizing is what we call neutralization. Social reaction theory, more commonly called labeling theory. It states that people become criminals when significant members of society label them as such and they accept this label as personal identity. Social control theories maintain that everyone has the potential to become criminal, but most people are controlled by their bonds to society. Social control refers to the agencies of social control such as family, school, religion, nor church, government, and laws and other identified authorities in society. There are two sub-theories: containment theory and social bond theory. Containment theory, proposed by Walter Reckless, stated that the inner and outer containments help prevent juvenile offending. Pressures and police towards delinquency are everywhere. Containment means that forces within and outside the individual that has the power to influence his action. Inner containments include positive self-concept, tolerance for frustration, and ability to set realistic rules. Outer containments include family, friends, law, social position that can control behavior. Social bond theory, propagated by Travis Ritchie. This theory view crime as a result of individuals with weakened bond to social institutions. According to this theory, there are four elements of social bonds, which is attachment, commitment, involvement, and belief. Attachment refers to the degree to which an individual are about to be of others. Commitment refers to an individual investment of energy and emotion in conventional pursuits such as getting good grades, which is fucking cool. Involvement refers to the amount of time an individual spends on conventional pursuit. Belief refers to a sense of norms and of conventional society. Commitment, family, career, success, future goals. Attachment, family, friends, community. Involvement, school activities, sports team, community, organization, religious groups, social clubs. Belief, honesty, morality, fairness, patriotism, and responsibility. And that's the chapter 6 of sociologism. Thank you.
Chapter 7, Victimology. So bago natin pag-usapan ng victimology, talakayin muna natin ang brief history at ang mga taong bumubuo nito. Unang-una dyan ay si Benjamin Mendelssohn. Gumawa siya ng iba't ibang typology. Mayroon siyang 6 na typology o iba't ibang klase ng victims. Benjamin Mendelssohn, who coined the term victimology in the 1940s. He was a lawyer from Bucharest, Romania, who developed a scientific method for the study of criminal acts that utilize biopsychosocial data on the criminal, the victim, and the witness. Next is the classification of victims according to Mendelssohn. Innocent victim, someone who did not contribute to the victimization and is in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is the victim we most often envision when thinking about enhancing victim rights. Yung innocent victim daw, ito ay tumutukoy sa tao na hindi naman nagbigay ng kahit anong contribution na taon lang na nasa lugar siya. And sunod is the victim with minor guilt. Does not actively participate in their victimization but contributes to it in some minor degree, such as frequenting high crime areas. This would be a person that continues to go to a bar that is known for nightly assault. Yung victim with minor guilt naman daw, tumutukoy sa mga taong naging biktima na mayroong konting contribution in some minor degree. Sunod naman, pangatlo, the guilty victim, victim offender. Victim and offender may have engaged in criminal activity together. This would be two people attempting to steal a car, rob a store, sell drugs, etc. Those who are an accessory to the crime fall within this category. They actually help with their victimization. Yung the guilt victim, victim offender naman, ito ay tumutukoy sa mga accessory of the crime na nakatulong sa victimization. Sunod ay ang guilty offender, guiltier victim. The victim may have been the primary attacker, but the offender won the fight. Yung guilty offender, guilty victim naman daw, yung victim dito ay ang pinaka-primary or siya talaga ang unang nanggulong, ngunit kaya siya ang naging biktima dahil siya ang nanalo. Sunod ay ang guilty victim. The victim instigated a conflict but is skilled in self-defense. An example would be an abused woman killing her partner while he is abusing her. At ang pinakalas ay ang imaginary victim. Some people pretend to be victims and are not. This would be someone falsifying reports or those persons suffering from mental illness disorders who believe they are the victims. Imaginary victim, ito naman daw yung nagpretend na bilang isang biktima para magbigay ng maling report, or ito yung mga taong nagsuffer under ng mental illness or disorder. At ang sunod ay ang nakikita natin sa larawan ay si Hans von Hentig. Siya ay nagturo sa university in US at nagsulat ng The Criminal and His Victims na naipublish noong 1941. Siya ay naka-base sa psychological, social, and biological. Hans von Hentig ay kinikilala bilang father of victimology. Pero sa ibang libro ay si Mendelssohn. Next is von Hentig's victims typology. The young people. Von Hentig was referring to children and infants from a contemporary point of view. Children are physically weaker, have less mental prowess, have fewer legal rights, and are economically dependent on their caretaker, parents, guardian, teachers, and so forth. They also have the potential to be exposed to a wider range of harm than adults. Moreover, they are less able to defend themselves and sometimes less likely to have believed should they seek assistance. This includes children who suffer emotional, physical, and sexual abuse at home because of abusive parents. Children who are bullied at school because of some aspect of their appearance or personality. And children who are forced into act or of prostitutions or sold into slavery by impoverished parents. Each suffers different levels and frequencies of exposure to different kinds of harm. The female. Von Hentig was referring to all women from a contemporary point of view. Many women are physically weaker than men. Many have been culturally conditioned to varying degrees to accept male authority. And many women are financially dependent on the men in their lives, fathers, husbands, and so forth. To make matters worse, many Western women are conditioned to believe that their value is associated with their bodies or specifically their sexuality. In extreme cases, this can lead to low self-esteem, depression, substance abuse, promiscuity, prostitution with varying exposure to harm. The old. Von Hentig was referring to the elderly in a contemporary sense. They have many of the same vulnerabilities as children. They are often physically weaker, mentally less facile, and may be under someone else's care. This can expose them to a range of harms, from the theft of personal property of the child punching. James naman, siya yung may gawa at siya yung complainant. Direct of primary victim is the person who was actually harmed because of the commission of the offense. Victims or rape, theft, robbery, physical injuries are some example of direct or primary victim. Yung direct or primary victim naman daw, ito yung pinaka-biktima. Halimbawa, siya yung nasaktan, na-rape, at nanakawan. Siya yung pinaka-talagang biktima. Next is indirect or secondary victim. Refers to the family or loved ones of the victim, such as in the case of murder or homicide. Indirect or secondary victim, ito naman daw yung tumutukoy
Chapter 10 Introduction to Criminalistic. Knowledge in criminalistics is one of the core competence of criminology as a field of study because included with the scope of criminology is the study of the different fields in criminalistic. The use of the technical knowledge, methods, and tools of criminalistic is referred to as instrument. Criminalistic is a branch of forensic science which include personal identification, police photograph, forensic ballistic, question document examination, polygraphy, and legal medicine. The term criminalistic was introduced by Hans Gross, the father of criminalistic. However, criminalistic it also used interchange with the term police science and forensic science. Forensic science is defined as the application of science to law. Others books also define it is the application of science to do the investigation and prosecution of crime. It is a broad field in which criminalistics is just of one of the branches Edmond Lockhart is considered as the father of forensic science. Personal identification is a collective term that refers to the different methods of determining the identify of an individual in the study of the personal identification as an subject. The focus is on dactyloscopy because it is the standard method used by the law enforcement agency in establishing identities of the suspect and victim. It is it is because fingerprinting is the most well established of the forensic science used for identification of individual. Yung personal identification po is isang uri or terminologies na tumutukoy sa pamamaraan o iba't ibang pamamaraan para ma-determine natin yung identification ng isang tao. Dactyloscopy is the science of identification by means of fingerprint. Dacty- dactyl- Dactylography refers to the scientific study of the fingerprint as a means of identification. The term dactyloscopy was derived from the Greek word dactyl, which means finger, and scopian, which means to study. Therefore, dactyloscopy literally means the study of the finger, more specifically the fingerprint. Fingerprint are impression made by the ridge on the side of that last joint of the finger or thumb on any smooth surface through the media of an ink, sweat of an region capable of producing visibility. Yung fingerprint daw po is yan yung impresyon na nakikita nyo sa mga daliri nyo or sa fingers nyo. Kaya kung napapansin nyo pag nagkakandak na operation sa crime scene, isa sa hinahanap ng mga investigador, halimbawa ang SOCO team, is yung impresyon na naiwan sa mga instrument or sa mga bagay na matatagpuan sa crime scene to determine what what the identification by using a fingerprint. It was the Asian Chinese who first used the fingerprints as a means of identification by imprinting their fingerprint in their primitive form of contracts. Its study continued to evolve through the advancement of scientific knowledge and technology. Yung Chinese po, yun yung mga ginagamit ng Chinese dati na kung saan ginagamit niya yung fingerprint as a means of identification ng kadalasan. Ginagamit nila yun na pang pirma sa contract or documents. Marcelo Malpighi was recognized as the grandfather of dactyloscopy. Sir Edward Henry known as the father of modern fingerprint. Henry system. The Henry system is the fingerprint classification system being used by Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI) in the United States of America. In the Philippines, the same system used by the National Bureau of Investigation or NBI and the Philippine National Police or PNP. There are 8 types of fingerprint pattern in the Henry system of fingerprint. These are plain arch, tented arch, ulnar lobe, radial lobe, plain whorl, central pocket lobe, double lobe whorl, accidental whorl. 3 universally accepted principles that govern fingerprint identification. Number 1, principle of individuality states that there are no two persons having the same fingerprint. Ang sabi po dito is sa principle of individuality. According to this principle, walang tao, dalawang tao na may pareho na fingerprints. Kumbaga, yung fingerprint na yan na meron ka na wala sila. Principle permanency or constancy states that fingerprints remain the same throughout the person lifetime. Ang sabi po dyan is kahit tumanda ka, hindi magbabago fingerprint mo. Number 3, principle of infallibility states that fingerprint cannot be fake or forged and therefore they provide reliable positive means of identification. Ang sabi po dyan is hindi mo pwedeng pekein ng fingerprint. Police photography. Photography is an art or science which deal with the reproduction of image through the action of light upon sensitized materials with the aid of camera and its accessories and the chemical process involved therein. Sabi po diyan sa photography, kumbaga ginagamit natin yung photography as one of the means of evidence at its application to police crime. The term was derived to Greek word pos, which means light, and graphos, which means right. And the mechanical and chemical result of photography is a photograph, which is produced through the use of camera. Camera is a light tight box with a lens form an image with the shutter and diaphragm to control the entire of the image and viewer of viewfinder to show the photographer what the image is. Police photography is an art of science which deals with the study of principle of photographer, the preparation of photography, evidence, and its application to police work. It is used for the identification purposes, recording and preserving of evidence, recording action of offender in surveillance in activities, and for court exhibits. Forensic ballistic is the examination of evidence relating to firearms at a crime scene, including the effect and behavior of projectile and explosive devices. Forensic ballistic is examine of evidence relating to firearm at a crime scene. Ballistic is the science of the motion of the and the condition that affect their motion. Projectile refers to any metallic or eyeball which propelled from a firearm. Firearm is an instrument used for the propulsion of the projectile by means of the expansive force of gases coming from burning gunpowder. Four branches of ballistic. Interior or internal ballistic, it deals with motion of the projectile while is still inside the firearm. Sabi po sa interior or internal ballistic is ito ay tumutukoy sa pag-aaral about sa motion or movement ng projectile or ng bala habang ito ay nasa loob pa lang ng firearm. Number 2, exterior or external ballistic. Focus focus on the attributes or movement of the projectile after leaving the gum muzzle. Ang sabi po diyan is nakapokus naman sa tao sa pag-aaral ng movement ng bala pagkatapos niyang makalabas doon sa muzzle of the guns. Number 3, terminal ballistic. It deals with the effects of the impact of the projectile on the target. Sabi po dyan is the study of the effect of the impact ng bala doon sa target. Next, number 4. Forensic ballistic is the study of the motion of the projectile as applied to law or simply the science of firearm identification by means of the ammunition fired through them. Calvin Goddard, an American high-ranking military officer, was the first examine evidence using the principle of forensic ballistic and to testify as an expert witness with resulted with the conviction of the those he is credited as the father of firearm identification. Question documents examination. Question document examination is the branch of criminalistic which deals with the examination of handwriting, typewriting, and signature through the use of scientific tools and instruments to determine its authenticity or to prove forgery. Document is any material with contain mark, sign, or symbol, either visible or invisible, that may presently or ultimately convey a meaning or message to someone. Next, question document is one in which a document in its entirely or in part is subject to question as to authenticity and or origin. It also defined as a document in which an issue has been raised or which is under scrutiny. Sabi po sa question document examination, kapag may pagmemeke ng mga document, panggagaya ng handwriting ng isang tao at pamimeke ng pirma. Next is forgery is the making of or altering an instrument or document with intent to defraud. It also defined as a copy that is falsely represented the original. The making of forged signature and forged document are both punishable as a crime. Sinabi po dun sa forgery, ito na ang panggagaya or pag-alter sa isang document upang makapangloko. Three major types of forgery of signature. Simple forgery is a forged signature made without any attempt on that part of the forget to limitate or make a facsimile of the genuine signature of the person purported to sign the document. Ang sabi po sa simple forgery, kung baga ginaya niya yung signature na isang tao na wala naman siyang intensyon na gamitin to para pikein o lokohin ng isang tao. Simulated forgery is a forged signature made through freehand imitation of the signature to be forged is considered to be the most skillful type of forgery. Sabi po dyan is gumaya ka ng isang pirma ng tao, the most skillful type of forgery. Next, trace forgery is the result of an attempt of the forge to make a close resemblance of the original by some tracing process as a transfer it to the fraudulent document. Next is Albert S. Osborne is recognized as the father of question document examination. Polygraphy. Polygraphy refers to the scientific method of detecting diction with the use of polygraph. Sabi po sa polygraphy, isa to sa pamamaraan para makita natin kung ang isang tao ay nagsisinungaling or hindi. Polygraph refers to the instrument designed for recording change in blood pressure, pulse, respiration, and skin resistance as indicative of emotional disturbance, specifically of playing when question. It is administered by asking question to the subject relevant to the case under investigation. Sa polygraph, yan ang instrumento na ginagamit to record the change of blood pressure and the pulse. The term polygraph was derived from the two Greek word poly, which means many, and graphos, which means writing. It was Thomas Jefferson who first used the word polygraph to describe one of his invention of machine which could be made rewrite repeatedly words per message. But it is John Larson who is recognized as the father of scientific lie detection because he wants the first to detect the deception and verify truthfulness of a person in a more scientific way, developed through the contribution of Leonard Keeler, who further enhanced the polygraph machine by adding other devices such as the chemography and galvanography, and for he is recognized as the father of modern polygraphy. Three major parts of polygraph. Pneumography records a change in the breathing pattern or respiration of the person. Ang sabi po dyan is ang pagbabago ng breathing ng isang tao. Galvanography records the skin resistance sweating of the person. Sabi po dyan, nire-record naman po dito ay ang skin resistance. Cardiospermograph record the change in the blood pressure and pulse rate. Nire-record naman dito yung change ng blood pressure ng isang tao. Polygraph or detection, as other refer to it, is the technique employed both in the private and public sector as an aid in investigation to help the investigator ascertaining if the person under investigation to help the investigator is being truthful or deceitful. This is done through the use of the polygraph instrument or machines physiology change or reaction that occur in the person while undergoing questioning. The polygraphy was several devices that attached to the body of the person, enabling the recording of the such bodily change. It is the presence or absence of certainly bodily change or reaction that indicate whether the person is lying, telling the truth based on the set of question asked. In criminal investigation, polygraph has proven to be useful in helping the investigator eliminate suspect. By eliminating suspect, the investigator is able to focus his effort in locating the real perpetrator. At the same time, if a suspect failed in his polygraph test, then the investigator already got lead which he can pursue until he can file the appropriate case against the right suspect. Although the findings of the polygraph test is not admissible as evidence in court, it cannot be denied as evidence in court. It cannot be denied that it is still a useful tool in law enforcement and ultimately in the criminal justice system. Legal medicine. as a branch of medicine which deals with the application of medical knowledge to por, to the purposes of law and in the administration of justice. It is the application of basic and clinical medical and paramedical science to elucidate the legal matters. Ang legal medicine concerns sa examinasyon o medical evidence. Malalaman natin kung ano ang resulta ng pagkamatay ng isang tao or injury ng isang tao. A physician who specialize or is involved primarily which medical legal duties is known as a medical jurist. The term medical jurist is used interchangeably with medical examine, medical legal officer, and medical legal expert. Legal medicine is include in the study of criminalistic because it is the field of study that is concerned with the examination of medical evidence requiring the knowledge and application of the principle in medicine, in law enforcement and criminal investigation, crime resulting in death and injuries, and crime involving sexual violence such as rape require examination. Doctors are qualified to do. It is a medical legal officer, medical doctor who conducts autopsy to determine the cause of death of person with the circumstances and his death suspicious, such as when cause of death is poisoning. It is medical legal officer who examine injury because by different kinds of weapons such as firearm and bladed weapons as a result of violent crimes, examine injuries brought about by the sexual assault such as rape. He is he is the one who examines skeletons to determine whether the skeletons are human origin or not. In cases wherein the identify of the skeleton needs to be established and he is the expert who is qualified to appear in court to testify as to these matters.